Thank you for joining this short webinar showing you how to review the completion guidance when making an export declaration using Customs Declaration Service software. This is Step 8, Step 9 and Step 10 of a series of short webinars introducing the Customs Declaration Service guidance on completing an export declaration. This table sets out the step-by-step guides we'll be covering in this series. We will be showing you screenshots from gov.uk. HMRC is constantly improving the digital experience of our customers, so you may find that some of these screenshots will be slightly different to those you'll see on gov.uk. This webinar series follows Grayson, who is exporting children's t-shirts from Great Britain to the USA. He has his own Customs Declaration Service software product, which means he can submit his own declarations. Grayson is completing an export standard declaration. It's important that Grayson follows the steps in order, otherwise his declaration will fail validation. Grayson needs to ensure he is on the Navigate the CDS Declaration Instructions for Exports page. If Grayson scrolls down, he will see the 11 steps he needs to follow. Steps 8, 9 and 10 relate to filling out his customs declaration. Grayson needs to find all the other relevant data element information and codes needed to complete the customs declaration for exports. First, Grayson will need to open the CDS Declaration Completion Instructions for Exports guide, which has data element by data element guidance of what is required. This can be accessed via the link in Step 8. By clicking on the hyperlink, Grayson is taken to the main guidance page. He then scrolls down and selects General Notes on Reading Data Element Completion Rules. This opens up the guidance page, which Grayson will need to read through. He then scrolls down to the data groups. Grayson starts with Group 1 and selects the hyperlink. Having navigated to the guidance in Group 1, Grayson realises he will also need to use Appendix 1 and 2 as supplementary information relating to the procedure and additional procedure codes is required. He searches for the procedure code 1040 in Appendix 1, which he did in Step 3. He needs to use this in conjunction with the CDS Declaration Completion Instructions for Exports that he found earlier. Grayson has the CDS Declaration Completion Instructions for Exports open on the left and Appendix 1 open on the right of his screen. He will start looking at the first data element 1.1. Grayson needs to scroll down on the CDS Declaration Completion Instructions for Exports to find all the possible categories that can be used against the declaration category of B1. Grayson also needs to have Appendix 22A open, which he used in Step 1 to identify the declaration category. He needs to have this open when completing the export declaration to know which data elements require completion. Grayson will also need to have the GB Tariff supplement open while completing the declaration. The CDS Declaration Completion Instructions for Exports show that the possible values can be input into the declaration are EX and CO. According to Appendix 1, the codes that can be used with Procedure Code 1040 are also EX and CO. Using this information, Grayson can decide the correct declaration type to enter into data element 11 for declaration category B1. As he's trading with the USA, he selects the declaration type EX. It's important to remember that if the rules specified in the CDS declaration completion instructions for exports are different to the rules specified in Appendix 1 and 2, Appendices 1 and 2 always take precedence. This applies to all the data elements in the export declaration. Grayson moves on to the next data element of the declaration. He has scrolled down to data element 1.2, additional declaration type. He has also identified data element 1.2 in Appendix 1. As Grayson works his way through the data elements, if there are any requirements specifically relevant to a B1 declaration in the CDS declaration completion instructions for exports, these would be detailed under a declaration category B1 heading as described in Step 10. An example of this is the specific guidance for declaration category B1 and B2 against data element 6.5, gross mass. As data element 1.2 doesn't have a specific heading for declaration category B1, Grayson follows the guidance under the heading All Declaration Categories, while still remembering that Appendices 1 and 2 take precedence. On the left, Grayson scrolls down and can see the possible entries for data element 1.2. On the right in Appendix 1, he can see the valid additional declaration types possible when using Procedure Code 1040. As Grayson is using Declaration Category B1 with a Procedure Code of 1040 and making a standard customs declaration, the only options are A and D. Grayson will use either code A or D as he is completing a standard customs declaration for exports. For exports, a Type A declaration can only be submitted if the exporter holds a CSE, Customs Supervised Exports Authorization, or if the goods are being exported through a GVMS, Goods Vehicle Movement System Arrived Exports Location. As neither of these are applicable to Grayson, the export declaration must be pre-lodged using additional declaration type D. In addition to using Appendix 1, he also needs to use Appendix 2 in conjunction with the CDS Declaration Completion Instructions for Exports. Grayson returns to Appendix 2 and navigates to Additional Procedure Code 000, which he did in Step 4. Once he has navigated to the additional procedure 000, Grayson needs to use this together with the CDS Declaration Completion Instructions for Exports that he found earlier. As you can see, for additional procedure code 000, there are no extra conditions that need to be met. Therefore, Grayson doesn't need to include anything from this appendix. It's important to note that other additional procedure codes might require specific fields to be completed, laid out in the same format as Appendix 1. Now that Grayson has worked through data elements 1.1 and 1.2 in Group 1, he needs to work through all the other data elements in Groups 1 to 8. Grayson needs to remember that if there is no specific guidance in Appendices 1 or 2, and the B1 declaration is not mentioned in the CDS completion instructions for exports, he must follow all the declaration categories guidance in the completion instructions. Grayson has now identified how to successfully complete his declaration by following steps 8 to 10 of the navigation process, remembering that Appendices 1 and 2 take precedence. However, please watch the final webinar to see how Grayson will use appendices to complete his customs declaration for exports.